Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Chagigah daf Chav Zayin. We are going to begin on Chav Vav and Beis, about 14 lines or so from the bottom. But typically, why don't we learn out Mishum Sipui? Says Rashi, why don't we learn the Mekabel Tuma, that the reason why our Mishnah says that one should not touch the table, we don't want the Amaratzim to touch it, because the table can become Tameh. So we said, well, 1 second, what if it's Rafihu Asu Anachas? We said if it's something which is permanent and stationary, then it's not able to become Tameh. So the answer is because it's Sipui, it's covered. Says Rashi, Shumatechas, the Klimatechas Liskshosak. The only reason why we would say something which is in one place is not able to become Tameh is only if it's like sak, which is something which can be moved, Moliv Arekim. If it remains in one stationary place, so it's not able to be Matalta Moliv Arekim. Yeah, but that's only something which is like sack. However, this is metal. Metal is Mekabel Tuma. So, l'chor, it's a double pashut that this table should become Tameh. So, we learn Hashulchan V'Hadulfiki, which is this folding chair, Nifchasu o shechifon b'shayish. If it got damaged, or let's say it was covered with marble, v'shir, which then itself is not tameh, v'shir behem makam hanachas kaisais tameh, and then you left over a certain amount of place to put down these cups, so the din is tameh. Says Rashi, if you cover it with marble, the shuv havi kikli avanim shein mekabel tuma. So this marble, an even, avanim can't become tameh, a stone. But you left from this psicha, from this opening, this damaged part, or let's say from this covering, this part, enough that you can put cups down. So we say that it's tameh. Shedaid roi u'malach derishayna, because it still has utility for its first use. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer mishum makam hanachas hachatichais. It has to be big enough that you can put down set foods. So Alma, what do we see? It's sipa mavatlei. The fact that it's covered up, that's mavatlet. Afil hakil b'koshkin hachmer. So we see that in this situation, if it's covered up, is shayish, so then it's considered to be bottle. However, some of it is not covered, so then it does have the capacity to become tameh. So to over here, we should say the same thing when it comes to metal, or this shulchan, in which it has in it matechas, it's a kli matechas, so then of course it becomes tameh. So v'chitema shani atzishit in the chashivi v'lo, maybe because the acacia wood is so chashiv, therefore it's not going to be bottled to its covering, and therefore the covering can't make it tameh. I can understand if he's talking about dafka, this type of a kli. What's the haboim b'nis that it comes from far away, of a kli mesamim. When it comes to expensive kalim, will batli shaper. So you can maybe say that expensive kalim, it will not be mavatal, right? El Rav Yochanan marfil b'kli masmim nami batli malkamemar. According to the sheet of Rav Yochanan, even if it is a kli chashiv, even if it is like atishitim, which is chashiv, it's still not mavatal to the tzipui. So again, the covering should make it so that it's tameh. Maybe it depends if it's a covering which is well fixed to the table, or one which is not well fixed to the table. Says Rashi, sheinu mechuzak b'musmarim, that's not put in with nails. Therefore, the whole point is, can't use nails. So maybe even though it's covered, it's not considered to be a tzipui in which can be mavatal the eights. Rather, the eights will be mavatal the tzipui. In other words, because it's atishitim, so it's still duminasak. So therefore, you can't say it should become tummy because of tzipui, because maybe it only what's a chash with tzipui, which has nails. Now, how about mini reish lachish Rav Yochanan? But tzibur oimid or but tzibur sheinu oimid. He want to know when it comes to the tzipui, which has the ability to make things tummy, doesn't matter what kind. And he also asks, b'chayfa es lavaz v'zoy or b'sheinu chayfa es lavaz v'zoy. The question is if it's covered with the rims of the table, or if it's not covering the rims of the table. He said it doesn't matter. That's the key. So it doesn't make any difference when it comes to a tzipui, even if it's shinu oimid, like the one in the shulchan, even though it wasn't nailed down, that tzipui is the reason why it becomes tameh. It shouldn't have anything to do with asul nachas. Now, shani shulchan table is different. As we go to Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, the last omid in our Masechta, the Rachmana Kari eitz. The Torah itself, even though it is a mitzvah, and therefore it should be considered to be tameh because of that, but we don't do that because it's called a table of wood. D'chsiv hamizbech eitz shalosh meos gavoye 3 almost high. The ark was shtayim amois, and its length was 2. Umixaisav loy v'archa v'kirasav eitz. Its legs, its surface, and its walls are wood. Yedaber Eli zeh shulchan asher lifnei Hashem. So, therefore, basically, the Torah is saying that it is a shulchan, but it's actually considered to be eitz, and because it's an eitz, so therefore we don't regard, even though normally we would regard the tzipui, here we don't. Pasach b'mizbeach v'sayim b'shulchan. So we have a famous drasha that it begins calling it an altar, then it's called a table. Now the shulchan is a shulchan. Why does it say a shulchan? And then before that it calls them mizbech. Says Rashi, Dechsiv halchir sina mizbech and achayshis dechsiv mizbech adama. This is referring to the copper mizbech. Mizbech adama hakasiv kar adama or mizbech shema alan olav ha'oilis or shlam and behind mizbech and achayshis. So that's referring to the mizbech and achayshis. So on this, Rav Yochanan v'shlochish Rabbi Tervayi was mash based on Midrashkayim mizbech machaper al adam. When it came to the time of the Beis Hamikdash, the table, the mizbech is machaper on people. Says Rashi, the gadol koyach haligma k'deisa b'hagadas chelik. Okay, akshav shulchan shel adam machaper olav. But now our table is what's machaper, which is very interesting. So even though we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, we can still come close to Hashem with how we act at our table when we eat, how we interact with our family, and how we invite people over, etc. So mizbech and achayishes, where there's an extra copper mizbech, mizbech adama tasali, mizbech zahav. So what it says, mizbech adama. So we say from there that there was multiples. Says Rashi, Kara damul mizbech shema'alan olav ha'oilas ha'shlamim behind the mizbech and achayshas. Okay, mizbech adama tasli, mizbech hazahav dechsiv hamenar hamizbachos. Ishkas mizbachos elazeh. So because it says hamizbachos, so therefore, which is referring to the mizbech hazahav, but it's in plural, so then we make a hekesh. A comparison all the mizbech. So just like the mizbech and the chayisha, so to the mizbech hazav, they have the same din that there was multiples. So he said that the issue, if we go back over here, when it came, we had doubles of everything because in case it became tameh. However, when it came to the mizbech hazav, mizbech and the chayishas, because it was nation kikarka. So therefore, that was one reason why we didn't have to duplicate them. Hacham said because it was mitzupin. So Adarabbi kivan the mitzupin in whom metamu. As we have just been saying, if it's covered with metal, then that's how reason it should become tamei. So aim of chachamim matamim neishehem mitzupin. Actually, pumfakert say it this way that the chachamim actually hold that they do become tamei because they are mitzupin, because they are covered. Fine. Says Rashi, the ilah matsupa. If it wasn't for that, it was covered. Yeshalhem l'taharim mishum kli'etz hoisul nachas. So again, the reality is that it can't become tameh because it's still kli'etz hoisul nachas. Let me read this Rashi again. The ilah matsupa. If it wasn't for that, it was covered. Yeshalhem l'taharim. You would say to mitar, it's tahar mishum kliyetz hasul nachas. Because it's a kliyetz hasul nachas, you would think it's tahar. But because it has sipoy, because it's covered, that's why it's tameh. Chacham omrim Rabbanon Rabbi Lezer Karmer. He's actually explained the words of Rabbi Lezer. My daitach, what is your reasoning? Mishum nematzubim, because it's covered. Mevatel batel sepuin gabayu. These covers are considered to be batel by the mizbeach itself. We say that the fire of Gehenna has no ability to harm a Talmud Chacham, Kavachimer, Salamandria, just like the Salamandria. My Salamandria, Shetadas Eishi, that's like an offspring of fire. Hasach Medama in Orshalatisbo. If you smear yourself with its blood, then the fire will not do anything. It's like a way of like becoming fireproof. So Talmud Chacham should call Gufanish. The entire Talmud Chacham's whole body is like fire. Because their whole body is Torah. Because they embody Torah. So their whole guf is Torah. That they'll be protected from fire, namely the fire of Gehenna. What is the Salmandra? Says Rashi, Chaya hanivras min or. It's this wild animal that was created from fire. Okay. Last words of this Masechta. Actually, the fires of Gehenna won't even harm the Poishi Yisrael, the sinners. Ma mizbeach hazav, this golden mizbeach. Shein alav el koivi dinner zahav. All it had was a thin thickness of gold. Kamishanim in a or shaletisbo. Nonetheless, the fire was not able to penetrate through that small amount of gold. So Paish Yisrael shemlein mitzvahs karimon. Even a sinner, they have a lot of mitzvahs. Tachsiv kepal harimain rekasech. He'll split open the pomegranate, its temples, the empty ones, that even though it's true, and Rashi says here, Denas Mones was a miracle that the fire never penetrated the Mizbeach, but the Metzias, it never did. So too, a Poishi Yisrael, even a Poishi Yisrael, still does a lot of mitzvahs. And therefore, that person will be saved from Gehenna. Says Rashi, Ela Poishik Sas Kaimer. Doesn't mean that they're mamish, terrible Poishik Yisrael Begufan. It's referring to Poishik Sas. They sin a little bit. So such an individual will be protected from the Or Shel Gehenna. Okay. Of course, you have to make yourself comparable to the Mizbeach. You have to make yourself similar to an altar. Okay. Let's see a couple of questions. There's not many here. Question 1. So why was Mizbeach HaZahav, the golden Mizbeach, not Mekabel Toma? So according to Rabbi Lezer, so as we said above here, that the Mizbeach HaZahav is like the Mizbeach HaNechayshus, and therefore for that reason, because it says Mizbeach Adama. Kol Kelim. Alright, so Kol Kelim Shniyim. Actually, it's really B'chulu. The Gemara over here says Mizbeach Nechayshus Mizbeach Adama is telling you why the Mizbeach Nechayshus cannot become Tameh. Is because it's called Adama, because it's like earth, and earth cannot become Tameh. So therefore, that's why the Mizbeach Nechayshus can't become Tameh, and the Mizbeach Zahav, actually the vort is, it says HaMizbachos. The Mizbachos is not talking about making a second and third. No, they only did make a second and third. I didn't say that properly. The Mizbeach Zahav, Mizbeach Nechayshus is only one. But what it's come to tell you is that the Mizbeach Hazam and the Mizbeach Nechoshes could not become Tameh. Why not? So one pshat is because it's hukish from Mizbeach Nechoshes. It says Mizbeach Adam Rabbanan, Dabli Kli Eitz Asul Nachas, the Batul Tzipuli Gabe Eitz, or Achmanikari Eitz. So you can say Pashit because it's considered to be wood, and therefore it's not considered to be. It's because it's batal. Mavatal batal sipuyin gabayhu. Okay. Question 2. Al mi omer b'gemar she'ein or shel gehenim shaletas behen. Who will be will Gehenim protect a person from? So Rabbi said a Talmud Chacham ein or shel gehenim shaletas behen, and the second answer is according to Reish Lakish ein or shel gehenim shaletas b'poishe Yisrael. Okay, there's almost opposite extremes. TA 16. Kol kiyam shoyba mekdash tunin tefillah chus mizbech zomaz mechayshus nation kikarka derulez chum umrim nation himatsupin ma bir b'divrei chachamim. So what do you mean? Doesn't mean supim if it's covered it should make it tameh. So either the chachamim say it's tameh because it's mitzupin, or the vard Rabbi Lezer the svile the ilav the havi kikarka. If it wasn't like karka, it would be tameh because it's sipu. Chachamim argue and say no, it's sipu is batal. So that's TA 16. So let's just find this. TA 16. So either, again, it's Chachamim Metamin, or, again, that it's that the Rabban is Rabbi Lezer Kamer. He was explaining the Shita of them. TB 15. B'mashal chanei shel adam mechaprolav. B'achnosas orchim. Rashi says that. We'll have to look at that Rashi. Let's see. Shel chanei mechaprolav b'achnosas orchim. TB 15. Which is interesting. So the Maharsha says, what does that mean? It's through the Torah that's said at the table. The Ravid says that when you control your eating, and you start, it's like Oshem Shemayim. So there's an element of, just like the Mizbeach, you put food, so to the Shulchan there's food. So one is able to elevate their table to the status of that of the Mizbeach. Hanulach Chaimer B'Kodesh Slikom Masechtas Chagigah. Hanulach Chaimer B'Kodesh Slikom Masechtas Chagigah. Hanulach Chaimer B'Kodesh Uslikom Masechtas Chagigah Adka.